Good morning. I'm Rabbi Chaim Belyak, the president of Friends of Jewish Renewal in Poland. We are today celebrating the 50th program in our series, which has given people an opportunity to understand the connection between Jewish history and culture and its roots in Poland and Ukraine, in areas that are not necessarily uh, as politically defined um, in certain times of history. We have a very special guest today who comes to us from the world of drama. And for me, as a person who's had the opportunity to interview many of our guests, this is a particular challenge. Uh, the world I play in is mostly history. But today we have a person from the world of drama, Igor Golyak. Um, Interestingly enough, his name is pronounced very much like mine, Belyak. Um, and so before we get too far into things, I want to be sure that all of our guests have found the globe at the bottom of their panel and that they've chosen the language that they're most comfortable in listening to. We have as our interpreters Marzena Szymanska and Marek Yozowski. And as usual, the person behind the scenes who's putting all of this together, uh, Dominika Zakrzewska. And now I turn to Igor Golyak, the director of the play Our Class. And one of the motivations for this particular program is that the play will be coming to San Francisco area uh, on March 27th. And we're hoping to encourage people to come see the play. And we thought it would be helpful to our audience and to people to have an opportunity to meet the director of the play. And I'm going to begin by asking Igor to tell us a little bit about his background and then something about this incredible uh, project, because this is not only about the play, Our Class, but it's also about a series of dramatic presentations that Igor has been directing. And so I'd like to start with those two questions. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about the Arlekin.
Sure. Well, first of all, Hein, thank you so much for inviting me to speak. It's a real pleasure, and I'm so looking forward to coming to San Francisco and bringing this extraordinary piece to you guys. And I say extraordinary because I can actually separate myself from it because it has become much bigger than I am. It has become its own thing, and I will talk about why I think so and what it has become actually. But it is truly something special that happens to the audience um, uh, after seeing this piece. My background is I was born in Kiev in Ukraine last century. And it was Soviet Union at that time. And since then, I've emigrated in 1989. We left Soviet Kiev and arrived in Boston, Massachusetts. And then I decided to cause a lot of headache for my family and decided to go back to Russia to study theater. So I went and lived in Russia for 6 years. I got my bachelor's and master's degree in Russia in theater, and then I came back here in 2004. And about 16 years ago, I started a company called Arlekin, and originally it was just a bunch of my friends. I arrived in America, needed to get a job. I already had a child at 2 months old when I arrived. and needed to get a job, and got a job in selling cell phones, and then selling ads and things like that. And then my friends came to me about 16, 17 years ago, said, hey, we are immigrants. We've kind of figured out our careers, but there's something on the soulful level that's missing. And we decided, and they asked me to start teaching acting classes to them. I said no. Why? Because I went to the best theater school in the world, and now I'm going to teach acting to non-professionals. And they kind of, we decided to start anyway, and I asked them to give me a 9 months commitment, and so that 9 month commitment turned into 16 years.
Wow. Wow. Tell me, we want to get to the play our class, but besides our class, you've produced an important presentation of the Dybbuk, uh, the play Merchant of Venice about Shylock, um,
Yeah.
and these are, I have to say, as I looked at the website, incredibly creative, inviting. um I think I know the play, let's say, Merchant of Venice, but I don't know the play as you present it and how you bring us into uh, the experience. We're not just hearing Shakespeare, which in America is a boring subject for us to take in high school, but it's alive. And
Hmm.
this is something that I sense happens with all your plays. And tell me something about the technique that you're using to tell the story of uh, our class. It's the story of 10 students, five Catholic, five Jewish, who we just hear about their lives, however long they are, and however uh, we're brought into that. So tell us something about the the secret sauce that you create.
The secret sauce is not so secret because I keep writing about it on my Substack. But the secret sauce is very simple. It's not my approach to staging theater is not a way to remind us of what that story was, because in medieval times, when not a lot of people could read, that was important. Right now, unfortunately, in America, it still is important because we are still kind of, we need to tell a story, and that is how a story is told in theater. I would rather read the story by myself in my bedroom and in a book. So what I try to do is I try to reimagine it. uh, I try to figure out what was the intent of the author. I read and research a lot about what the playwright was going through. What are the other plays? What are some themes that are running along? What is the time period that he's writing? And for example, with Shakespeare in Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare probably didn't see any Jews. It's an imagination of a Jew, because Jews were expelled from the kingdom 200 years before Shakespeare wrote the play. So it's a very important detail. So what does it mean? It means that it's kind of there was a very famous episode, a historical episode, where a Jewish doctor was Queen's doctor was tortured and killed in the main square because they suspected him of treason, and so, and this kind of episode brought about. It's like, what do we write about today? Let's write about Trump and and same thing there. Oh, this thing happened. This other theater, Marlowe Theater, staged the play, The Jew of Malta. We need to do something about the Jew. And what do we know about Jews? This is what we know about Jews. So that context is very, very important. And then that gives me inspiration that gives me inspiration to reimagine the play and translate it into today's world, whether costumes have nothing to do with the translation. It's about uh, hitting the nerve of what is important to people today. It's hitting the nerve of um, a dialogue with people. What is important to people today, in collaboration with the playwright, be it alive or dead, and actors and the director. So that's kind of the secret sauce of how it comes. That's my approach.
So this play was originally performed in Polish in Poland, uh, I believe the year 2000. The play is written by Tadeusz Sabodzianek.
Mhm.
Sabodzianek. And tell us, have you met the playwright? Have you um, had an encounter with him?
Yeah,
Something.
yeah. We went to Poland to do research. So in 23, we went to Poland to. He lives right outside of Warsaw, and we met with him. We actually lived together, and we went around, and we went to this site in Jedwabne where this pogrom happened. We went to Lublin, we went to Auschwitz, we went to kind of Krakow, around Poland, and kind of started feeding our imagination and feeding our knowledge base of what those places look like, how it has changed, what is Poland right now from an outsider's perspective. Um, so yeah, that was a really important meeting. But also he showed us around and he gave us a lot of his impressions and thoughts of what is happening with the Polish Jewry, if such exists.
You say if such exists. Okay, that's a interesting a throwaway line for us because we are involved, of course, with connecting to people who are searching for their identity. Um,
Yeah.
and this is, in some ways, not the distant territory of medieval England. This is territory on which you, by birth, by education, have a connection, even though there is this line between Ukraine and Poland there, especially in this region. It's a mixed
Mhm.
region where we find Jedwabne. Um, Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what it was like to go to the city of Jedwabne and to go with the author. Um,
Sure.
that, yeah,
It was not just the author; it was much more interesting because I forgot I should have mentioned we have a the scenic designer is a very famous scenic designer from Germany. He's the head designer at the Schaubühne Theater in Berlin. His name is Jan Papelbaum. So it was more like a German, a Pole, and a Jew walk around.
wow.
So it was, and one thing, Jan was sitting at the site of the Jedwabne pogrom. He's this very tall, very beautiful man, uh,
Yes,
deep thinker, and he's sitting there and he's photographing everything. But then he sat and just kind of started thinking. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Do you still want to do this with me?" And it's
well,
just such a heartfelt kind of connection that we
yeah,
built with this incredible human being. But in terms of Jedwabne, you know what? So when we arrived, we arrived on the anniversary of this event, which is July 10th,
yeah.
and we arrived to Jedwabne, and the whole city is completely dead. So everyone kind of door shuttered, windows, curtains up. Nobody, just
Oh,
nobody, except for two people, maybe four people that had Polish flag and was sitting on a bench in the main square. That's it. You could not see a soul. It's a village, but you could not see a soul. And there were some other groups. There was a group that we met from Israel. Um, uh, at least one other group that we met, maybe a couple, maybe two. Um, and so that was something that you know we are shut away from all this, um, all these events. That's kind of what I read from this encounter. And the only day that the church in Jedwabne is closed is July 10th.
Right.
And because people, they don't want Jews and people that come on July 10th to go into the church. Uh, Before the pogrom in Jedwabne, Jews brought in kind of like dowry, not dowry, brought in payments to pay off another pogrom to the church, and they brought gold, and it didn't help them. Of course, they all got burnt, but the cross that currently is in the Jedwabne church is built on the gold that was brought by the Jews to the church, and it still is there to today, until now. And
Wow.
so that is why the church is shuttered. And the last thing I want to say, it's a little more philosophical, I guess. But it's a small village, and you walk towards this pogrom site, which is slightly outside the village, and it's only maybe, I don't know, 200 meters. It's not huge, right? Maybe a little more. And you walk outside. It's by the cemetery, and of course, there's the Jewish cemetery, which is completely non-existent anymore, just wiped away, and they used the stones to build houses with. But and there's a wall, or a small kind of wall that surrounds where this a pogrom happened. And then there is a tombstone that says, in 1939, uh, uh, I don't remember exactly what it says, but so many Jews were killed here. Not by whom, until now. It used to say, until 2000, it used to say that the Germans killed the Jews, and then after the book came out, Neighbors by Jan Gross, they changed that sign, but now it's unknown who killed 1,200 Jews in the barn. And a last thing is that you go there. It's on the, as I said, on the outskirts of the little village, and you go there, and you see, and the view is unbelievable. It is so peaceful and beautiful, because you're not looking at the village; you're just looking at these incredible hills, this forest, this. I think there was a river there. It's just, the view is unbelievably stunning. And in this unbelievable vista that you see, you have this incredible tragedy. And you understand how irrelevant the world is to irreverent to the tragedy that can occur side by side with beauty.
I have taken tour groups to Jedwabne on July 10th. This was more 2010, 2015, in that period of time. And I have to say that my impressions, especially on how the city had been completely packed up and
Yeah,
shuttered. No one um, seemed to come out to meet people. There's no vendors, um, and by this time there are buses of people coming on July 10th. But
that's right. I remember that.
um, the participation from the city, or the awareness from the village, is not there at all. And
That's right.
I'm curious. We need to maybe back up a little bit to help people understand. 1939 is the time when the war, World War II, breaks out. Russia, or the Soviet Union, is a partner with Germany in the division of Poland. Uh, the Soviets enter about 2 weeks later, September 17th. But in June 22 of 1941, the Germans attack the Soviet Union. So the events that we're describing are a few weeks after the Germans have attacked the um, the Soviet Union, July 10. And what happens in that time, and how do you display that not as history, but as the drama? I mean, am I asking you to give away too much?
No, no, no. Since most of your viewers are not not going to come and see, have you? You haven't seen the play.
I've not. Going to be at the showing, and then I'm invited to participate in the panel, mostly on the
Uh-huh.
basis of my visit, but also on my work in reading this history, especially
Hmm.
the book by Becont. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Anna Bicont. Yeah, I have it right
on,
here.
yeah, uh, which was certainly a crime. Uh, 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 I mean, Gross's book is seen as the referential book, but the Becont book is powerful in a different way in that it brings you face to face with the people that were the perpetrators.
That's
Um,
right.
and so I'm wondering, does the play begin to address what happens between June 22 and July 10 when this people are gathered into this barn and so forth?
Yeah, yeah. The way the play is constructed, I won't give away too much, but just a little for context. The way the play is constructed is extremely interesting. The first, uh, the pogrom actually happens in the first act. Actually, not even at the end of the, closer to the end of the first act, but not at the end. There's a big scene afterwards, and that's just the first act. The second act is how people live with what has happened because it tracks 10 classmates or the ones that survive from 1920s to 2000. So
Right.
it tracks their whole life and how they deal with it, and that how they deal with it is extremely recognizable and humane. It becomes a microcosm for hate in general, not just Jewish hate, and we understand how close we can be. You see people playing soccer together, and people, being on the same team, people falling in love with each other, cross culture. There are five Catholic Poles and five Jews falling in love with each other, building things together. And then little by little by little, you see these people that are, you know, it's awful to say, but some of them are not bad people. It just kind of happens that the situation turns this way, and that's what they got to do. And it's, as I say that, I have goosebumps, of course, but um, especially in today's rise in anti-Semitism, but you can see that in the play you can see that humanity that happens, that is evident, and how little is needed to start turning things, and then you can't stop it anymore. And that is what's scary. So we try, and one of the main ideas that I was trying to kind of infiltrate into this work is that evil doesn't live across the ocean. Evil doesn't have a place where it lives. It travels and it lives anywhere we do. And it can coexist in today's world. And I think for American audience, it is very important that these evil Nazis from past century that lived overseas, uh, you it I don't want people to compartmentalize and say that those were the bad people. It's us. It's us. What are the things that are inside me that can get to that same level of hatred in all of us, right? And that recognition that this could be me on either side is what I'm going for here.
It's a very powerful statement. There's again, I don't want to give away too much, but there's one woman who survives, eventually converts to Catholicism, and lives her life in this village. Um, and the struggles that she and her Catholic husband um, have as they live in this village among the uh, uh, the perpetrators and among the bystanders, among the people who watched. Um, uh, the, I have to say that it is uh, a rich, we can use that term, uh, piece of or a rich opportunity for us to really study what happens to people over the long duration of one's life. I believe that this woman, his name is Rachel, and
Yeah,
she,
Raquel, she changes her name to Mariana. Yeah.
right, and she lives well into the 20th century.
Yeah, yeah. One thing we have to say is 8 out of the 10 characters in this play are completely real characters. So the people that you're describing, you can read about them in this book.
Right.
Crime. It's called The Crime and the Silence. But also, I don't know if you know, but also you can find them on YouTube.
No, I
You
didn't
can
know.
find you can find interview with Mariana and Vladu on YouTube
Oh,
and
wow.
actually meet them. But not only that, you can find the interviews with some of the perpetrators that are described in this book and in Jan Gross's book on YouTube as well, where they say this never happened. The
Oh,
actual people, the actual characters that are in the show are those people, real people from YouTube and from the pogrom.
that's startling. I did not know that they had given themselves over to actually speaking in public. It's one thing for you to imagine this, but for them to have come forward with their denials, with their life
Yeah,
stories.
it's
Um,
all there. It's all there.
Tell me the the larger issue, of course, of this play, our class, has had profound political implications in Poland. I don't know if that's something that you've been aware of and followed as well. I know that you are a dramatist and you're not a politician, but must be clear that you're aware of the political implications. There was at one time a ceremony where a significant member of the political system, the president, and a priest came to acknowledge what happened, and that has
Yeah,
become a
in
touchstone
2000.
in 2000. Right.
Yeah.
That's become a touchstone in Polish um, political life.
Yes, yes, and I think there has been a lot of again, I'm not very informed in the political situation in Poland, but it seems to me that some of those words were either taken back, the apology words that the president spoke, or they're no longer being acknowledged. So it's back and forth. I think not as the Jews that are trying to find their identity, it's the Polish people as well.
Right, right. Tell me, as a play, you've been working with this group of actors for a couple of years. Uh, these are, as you described earlier, your friends, and you've raised them up, so to speak, to be real actors. Um, uh,
Yeah, I want to clarify something. So the actor friends that I started in this company in Boston, Arlekin, they actually continue to live in Boston and they volunteer for the organization. The actors that are in our class, which we performed at BAM in January of 24, and then we ran it for 8 weeks, and then Classic Stage Company off Broadway in 25, and then we won all the all the off-Broadway awards, which are called Lucille Lortel Awards for Best Production of that year. Though those actors are New York actors. Some of them, one of them is from my company, but the rest are New York and Boston artists, and one is an international star. That is actually that has fled Russia after the start of the war. Her name is Chupan Khamatova. She's a superstar in Russia, and she fled at the start of the war, and she's playing actually Rahelka Mariana.
so I must tell you that a little bit of personal detail. There is a Jewish high school in San Francisco, and I would
Hmm.
say about half, maybe more, of the high school students have parents, grandparents that came from Russia and Ukraine,
Hmm.
and they are the ones who know these actors. And there's a profound mobilization to come and see this play, partly because this is a connecting with the profound dramatic tradition that they know from uh, their their lives in Ukraine and Russia. And
Hmm.
in some ways, this is a coming to San Francisco of a kind of meeting of people who have been following these actors in their various roles. So
Yeah.
this uh, the fact that this is happening is a kind of cultural event. There are a large number of uh, uh, Jewish people from these regions who have settled in the San Francisco area. There is something about
Hmm.
the connection of the ocean and the city that seems to attract, especially people from Odessa. Um,
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense.
um, so it's good to see this response. I'm curious, could you tell us about the response of other audiences that you've had?
Yeah, I can tell you. So the first performance, the play opened, premiered at Brooklyn Academy of Music in New York in January of 24. In August of 23, in August of 23, we gathered for the first time to just read the play aloud. We haven't started the rehearsal yet. We just gathered to read the play aloud. And I was thinking, how do I approach this play in a way that doesn't make it sound like a traditional Holocaust play? Because what happens at these, and I know firsthand, when I start watching a Holocaust movie, or I go in to see a Holocaust play, I kind of button myself up, and I'm like, I'm just gonna, learn something. And so I wanted to bypass that. So I was trying to figure out what is a way that for both actors and the audience members, how can I bypass that buttoned up soul, and actually talk to have a real conversation, have a real dialogue with the audience. And one thing that I said to the actors that mobilized them, I think, is the way that we are, and this is what I said in August of 23. The way that we're going to be approaching this play is not about telling the stories of the past. I have a hard time believing in learning from the past based on today's world. But what we're going to do is we're going to tell a story about what will happen. And they kind of looked at me, what do you mean? I said, well, I did Merchant of Venice, I did the book, and many other Jewish not many, but some other Jewish plays. And I know the history. I know over the course of history what has happened with Jews. There is absolutely no reason for us to believe that this will not continue to happen. Therefore, I know based on past, I know that this is going to happen in the future. It will. And I want people to feel like it can happen any moment, so that it's not something that I can put on a shelf and compartmentalize and this is about the past and how awful people were there. But it can happen anytime, anywhere. And for actors, it really mobilized them like, wow, it can happen with us. It can happen with anyone. And this was August of 23. In October 7th comes
Right.
in just a couple of months. And of course, we're all shaken up.
Sure.
And then we perform it in January. And in January, not just a couple of months since October 7th. And the reaction, especially at that BAM performances, and we ran there for 6 weeks, maybe, I don't remember, but something like that every day, is that the ushers a lot of times needed to first, they needed to go home after the show. So they needed to clear the house from the audience. And the audience just sat in their seats.
Right.
Because not because of sadness, it actually ends in a very kind of high note and very hopeful, and there's a lot of humor in it, and there's a lot of there's a ton of imagination. There's a ton of, because how can you show a barn burning of people? So there's a lot of imagination. There's a lot of playfulness. There's a lot of humor and hope as well. And at the end, people didn't want to leave, not because they were hurt or because it's almost like a cloud of thought or of connection that started to exist in the audience, that I'm not the only one thinking about this. There's people like me that are thinking about it as well. And that gives me hope. And that's why I want to stay here for a little bit and maybe look around. And I don't have to talk. I just want to be in this connected state with other human beings. And then the ushers got them out finally, would get them out, and that they would stand outside the theater. Some
Wow.
people would smoke, and not everyone, of course, some, but it's something that I haven't seen in any of my productions. And that's why I say that it's not about me as the director anymore. It has become its own thing, that is something that is of service to people.
This is a very profound answer a response that you've given. This is not an answer, but a response. In a few moments, we're going to invite people uh, who can find either the chat or the Q&A to write us with some questions. And hopefully, if there are questions in Polish, Dominika will bring them to our attention. And I will try to bring the questions in English. So if you're thinking of asking a question, this is a good time to begin approaching this. Um, I'm struck by the profound way in which you identify with this work. It's not just, you're not at a distance either. Just as you've asked the audience to come and be present, you have had a profound encounter with this play and the others you've done. It, it is, first of all, to your credit, and I realize that it comes at an emotional cost, uh, and I'm curious how, if you can, to describe a little more about what's going on with Igor Golyak in terms of your your transformation. You're the director. We acknowledge you're the boss, but you're more than the director.
All plays I do, whether they're Jewish, and I'm Jewish, I don't know if I said that, Jewish or not, I have a special relationship with, and it's in part about me, you know, a part about, in part about the world that I want my two children to live in. And their names are Esther and Jacob, right? What kind of world will they encounter? Will we hand off to them? And that really kind of drives me in a lot of ways. When I went to school in Russia, and it's really truly an incredible school, um, and I have a hard time talking about it because I'm from Ukraine, and anything that has to do with Russia, I'd rather like rip out of my heart and don't remember it. But the experience in the school was quite formidable, and formulated a lot of things for me because of access to incredible art there, and incredible festivals and so forth. And so one of the things that I was taught is uh, it's very kind of bad approach to uh, qualitatively assign yourself a type of director, because you really want to be able um, to merge with the material and become the director, and create the aesthetic that that material needs. So when I was attending the school, something like, I'm going to stage Jewish plays would be something that would not be accepted well, because that's not what an artist say. An artist say that they want to speak to the world, right? But I gave an interview to the Forward, and they took a great. Uh, they created a great title, and I think it was something that I may have said, that for now I'm okay with being a Jewish director, and because that is where I'm needed, and being needed and being of service to people is what gives me the greatest kind of joy and the greatest meaning that I could ever accomplish. So even though I did this triptych of Jewish plays, which you mentioned about with Dybbuk, Merchant of Venice, in the art class, um, and I'm okay with being a Jewish director.
Interesting. Obviously, we know that you're going against, but I love what you said as a rabbi. I think this time calls for people to take the measure of all of their identities and bring to the fore the ones that are needed. Uh, we have a comment from Professor David Cater. Um, he was on the trip that I brought the group to Jedwabne, and he reminds me it was 2015. So I have the right date now. Um, and he says, and remember how surreal the experience of moment and place were then, and remains in my memory. And so I wonder whether our class seeks to make more real such a memory, more vivid, more distinct, or rather does it seek to transcend the particulars and use it as a metaphor of despair or hope?
Um, as I said, I'm actually not trying to approach it as a memory play, as something that is in the past. Um, it is something that keeps on living. Uh, Hate and anti-Semitism is a light sleeper. It's here. It just needs to be woken up, or not needs to be, but is sometimes woken up. Um, and the presence of it is clear. Therefore, it's not about a memory of what has happened. They're contemporary people trying to understand the actors, the characters, contemporary people trying to understand how this could have happened with people similar to us. Um, so it's not a metaphor. It's not a memory. It's something that the audience is a witness to. They're not going back in history. They're witnessing something develop live before them, and then they realize, oh yeah, this happened, but actually this could happen again.
I'm struck just in your third time now telling us this, how difficult it is for us to appreciate what a drama is supposed to do in terms of bringing people to the event um, as much as possible, as opposed to what a history does. I'm struck by your teaching us this perspective that is so often in discourse not really appreciated, and
Mm.
it's a very important um, perspective. So we have a thank you for your response. Uh, and I want to just say to my colleague David Cater, who's a professor at Arizona State University, that there is a possibility for him to come see the play. Uh, there are planes, trains, and cars that travel from Arizona to San Francisco. We'd love to see him join us. Um, uh,
And I just wanted to say thank you for the question.
yeah. Uh, so, my colleague, um, uh, Scott Salson, reform colleague of my age and my era, um, asked this question. Um, does the light sleeper require of us more than uh, vigilance? Does it require
Hmm.
more than vigilance?
You know, I'm thinking right now. You know what I thought about? What I thought about Tolstoy. He would have a prepared answer. What you need to do, what you need to think about, or other the great writers. Unlike Chekhov, who would never tell you what to do. Chekhov would just diagnose the sickness as being a doctor. And I think I am in the same kind of sphere, or not sphere. Scratch that. I'm in the same approach to theater making, that I don't know what needs to happen. I can try to diagnose a problem and reveal it to us. I can ask questions. I don't have any prescriptions.
Thank you. Um, remember, it was a rabbi that asked you that question. We pretend to have prescriptions. Um, thank you, Scott, for your question.
Thank you,
This is
Scott.
a question from um, a friend who, in many ways, is responsible for creating the itinerary that brought the group in 2015 to Jedwabne. And this is uh, a person who's a member of the Reform movement, very prominent leader in the Reform movement, Alan Goldman. He writes, probably 25% or so of those who died in the barn were my cousins and other relatives. Does this non-reliance on memory in the play diminish the importance of what occurred and or detract from the impact?
It's a difficult question to answer because I've met people that relatives of whose relatives have died in the barn, um, and the question is, do we? I think remembrance is very important, but that's not my intention with the play, and I'm going to be honest with you. Remembrance is so important, but in order to infect the audience hearts, they need to feel like it is not from a memory, it is much closer to us than a memory is, that it is real. Um, and so my approach is built around that, and I think it really depends on what the intention of the piece is, right? If we are um, teaching, if we are reminding, that's one set of kind of verbs, and that's one set of energy that exists in the room. If we are saying this will happen again, it's a completely different energy and completely different, like, adrenaline in the body, right? And that's what I need from the audience. That's what I need for the audience to feel, so that maybe going forward there will be a little bit, maybe less hate.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, we are very appreciative of your spending time with us. We look forward to hosting you and seeing the play beginning March 27th through, I believe, April 3rd. Um, uh, it will be during the lead up to Passover and during Passover that we'll be watching this play. Um, and my hope, as a person who has uh, had a profound experience of doing the work of bringing what we call our freighted legacies, our complex
Mhm.
legacies, uh, that uh, will be something that inspires other people to bring the play to uh, their town. I hope that you will continue uh, with this work, and we are in your debt and very appreciative of the talent, the energy, and uh, reflectiveness about the present moment in acknowledging the struggles that we face as human beings, as Jews, as people rooted in presenting something that means not just in the past, but means today in our own moment in life. I want to turn to inviting people to join us on March 22nd. Um, we will, at that time, be interviewing Mark L. Smith, a historian who lives in Los Angeles, but is a historian who has brought the story of 16 Yiddish writers, Yiddish historians who wrote in Yiddish. Uh, Yiddish historians had a very short life, from 1890 to shortly after the end of World War II. And most of these historians originate in their writing in Poland, and he has translated a number of their most significant essays to provide um, um, an opportunity for us to learn from them. And uh, I'll be joined by Michael Nutkevich, uh, who will be joining the interview. I have a note here. Uh, uh, this is rare, but this comes from a professor, David Cater again. I think I get it. The director is making clear his intention in the play when I connect it with his opening observations of the Merchant of Venice, which while in the context of the trial, Dr. Lopez is not telling that history, but placing on trial Shylock to see what might be. So you get the reward that is rare. Somebody gets it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Marjana and Marek for their work in interpreting this. And we will have a number of comments once this is up in Polish. Generally, we have a lot of people who watch this, and within a few weeks, we have 500-600 people. So we'll maybe have to circle back for hearing their responses. Uh, um, One final comment from a good friend. I agree with your approach of pulling the cyclical nature of infection of hysteria that causes evil. Thinking of January 6th. Another person. Thank you again, Igor. Thank you all for
Thank you
participating.
so much for having me.
Thank you all for participating in Freighted Legacies. And I want to thank also Dominika Zakrzewska. And we look forward to seeing you March 22nd. Uh, and we appreciate your support for the work we do with Freighted Legacy. Thank you.